Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lawcast. This time, we're going back to cover what is, believe it or not, one of the biggest pay-per-views in wrestling history. It's a gate buster of a show that I don't think anyone expected. It's Wrestlemania 23. Wrestlemania all grown up. Kiyush, there are many strange things about this show, but perhaps the strangest of them all is that it's headlined by the future President of the United States, Donald Trump.
I guess it's important for us to kind of put a disclaimer here right at the top of the podcast. We don't really like Donald Trump all that much, so this was a very awkward viewing experience for us, but we're going to try, just saying off the top, not fans of Donald Trump. We're just going to put that out there. We're not going to let that infect as we talk about this later on. We're mostly going to be talking about how goddamn bizarre it is that he's there at all.
Well, infect is an interesting use to word given the current climate.
Yeah, that was maybe poorly chosen on my part.
We'll just, to drop it in the timeline, this will not air for a couple weeks, so we are in the heart of the coronavirus outbreak, and we don't know how bad things are going to be by the time this actually drops. Just for context, what is today? Today is March 16th, 2020. So today was the day WWE announced that WrestleMania won't be taking place in Tampa this year. So I don't think this is going to air for 2 or 3 weeks, so just keep that in mind as you're listening to the rest of this.
Yeah, it's going to be real hard to divorce ourselves from the current events proceedings, but we're going to try our best because that's not what you come here for. Or maybe it is, in which case you can just look at either of our Twitter feeds because it's all over those.
So yeah, every once in a while I have to stop and reflect on how batshit insane it is that Donald Trump got elected president of the United States. But here back in 2007, he was just a tabloid celebrity, a rich guy, and a reality TV star. He was a natural fit for professional wrestling. Like, it was really a perfect combination, I would say. Like, Donald Trump is still basically just a real-life wrestling character.
Oh, God, yes. He had already been associated with wrestling. He hosted it twice. So, I mean, he had already been in and around. He and Vince, I'm pretty sure, like, pretty good. I don't know that they're friends in as much as Vince can possibly be friends with another human being, but I do think that they're...
To the extent that either of those guys have friends, like, I think they're friends.
Yeah. I mean, they both acknowledge each other. And they've done business multiple times. That's friends, right? It's not weird that Donald Trump's part of all of this. What's weird is that they get him at a time where I don't think he's ever been as famous as he is at this exact moment. This is like the peak popularity of The Apprentice. He's just taken over being in charge of like the Miss USA pageants and all of that. So like literally like he's in the news every day.
Yeah, this is kind of his first peak would have been in the 80s, but then he had his bankruptcy and his financial struggles. This is when he's come back, and The Apprentice is a smash hit, one of the top shows on TV. He's riding high at this point, and I mean particularly in the couple months leading up to this, if anybody remembers this is when he had his feud with Rosie O'Donnell, and I can't remember exactly what that was over. But that was a big thing that like consumed, tabloid media and just kind of trashy media for several months. So yeah, Trump was a big deal at this point, and getting him to do this WrestleMania was pretty much perfect timing.
That feud was such a big deal that they did a match on Raw between Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I mean, that is one of the worst segments in wrestling history. But yeah, so the feud between him and Vince started in kayfabe when Vince did a promo like right around the new year, the beginning of 2007, complaining that Trump had stolen the "you're fired" catchphrase from him. And then like a week or two later, they did a pre-taped, response from Trump, and then they did that horrible Trump versus Rosie O'Donnell parody match on Raw, which had the fans like literally chanting TNA.
Which is the one and only time that TNA looked so good compared to even WWE, because that is one of the worst things that I've ever seen on television, and it lasted fucking forever.
Yeah. A couple weeks later, Vince hosted what he called a fan appreciation night. Trump interrupted that and dropped like money into the arena to upstage Vince. And then they went back and forth again, and a couple weeks later they agreed to do a hair versus hair match where they would each pick a representative, and whoever's guy lost, that person would have to shave their head. So Vince chooses Umaga. Trump upstages him by choosing Bobby Lashley. Gotta say, kind of interesting choices for this. The first time I remember like hearing the rumors about this, what was reported was that it would be Shawn Michaels representing Trump and Booker T representing Vince, which it's a much more reliable duo to pick for your huge WrestleMania match.
I've always thought that there were three possible options for this, right? Either A, either number one, it was Shawn Michaels versus Booker T originally, but when Triple H tears his quad, they have to they have to put Michaels in the main event, so they scramble and figure out, two up-and-comers, fine, these two. Two, they had always intended to do these two, and maybe this was just a match they had intended to do at WrestleMania anyway, so they were just like, fuck it, we'll just put that match in here, that's great. Or three, Vince saw Bobby Lashley walking through the backstage area and said, "Look at his beautiful bald head.
He's so vascular.
He knows how to shave a head. He'll shave me up good."
Yeah. I think it's a combination of like Triple H blew out his quad and they needed Michaels for the main event, and like Vince fell in love with Lashley. Also, Lashley was improving at a pretty dramatic clip. And I do wonder about when they made that decision, because it's weird that they moved Lashley to ECW and had him win the title and then put him in this match. So it does seem like, and that the December to Dismember was a couple weeks before Triple H tore up his quad. I'm definitely of the mind that they were going to do Triple H versus Cena again at this WrestleMania, which I think we lucked out getting Triple H or Cena versus Michaels instead, because I would have had zero interest in Triple H Cena round 2.
Would have totally shit the bed. That would have been horrible. But yeah, so then if Vince was in the situation of looking around for like who's his hot up-and-comer, it's Lashley. I mean, there's no real question about it. This isn't just me being a Lashley stan. He probably has the most momentum of anyone in the company at this point. And he's clearly Vince's chosen wonderkind, and that's why he sent him to ECW in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that, as we've sort of speculated, there's a decent chance they were feeling like Bobby Lashley could surpass John Cena and be the face of the company, and I don't think it's an insane thing to think. He wasn't nearly ready at this point, but you can imagine how his development would take him there.
And I mean, in terms of their development, like, even if Cena stayed at the top, like, there's room for more than one guy at the top.
Lashley could be the new Batista and be the top guy on SmackDown as Batista's starting to wind down.
Yeah, at this point, we've already had the situation where Batista's incredibly injury-prone. And until literally this night, Batista had put on a series of disappointing performances, spanning all the way from his match with Triple H at WrestleMania 21. Like, it had never really lived up to expectations. So there was more than enough room for another top star in this company. More than enough. Even notwithstanding the fact that when they eventually do Lashley versus Cena at Great American Bash, it's clear that there's room for like a Mega Powers type storyline.
Yeah, so to add another layer to things, they announced that Steve Austin would be the special guest referee for the match. Sure, why not? Like, just give us something else to just add another layer of chaos to this thing. You've got Trump, you've got McMahon, you've got the guys in the ring, you've got Shane can interfere, and now you've got Steve Austin too.
I mean, I can see, at the time I didn't really get why it would be a big deal that anyone would care about. Now looking back, it's so obvious that match is everything a casual wrestling fan wants.
Yeah.
It's got a famous celebrity that's really hot and like an interesting stipulation that makes you go like, oh shit, Donald Trump might get his head shaved? And for posterity, we should probably explain this to kids out there who may not understand. Donald Trump's is it a toupee thing was basically a news story for 25 years. It's not so much now that his hair is just some like a weird little marshmallowy wisp on top of his head.
Yeah.
But around these days, like, it was genuinely a question of, is it a toupee? I wish we could shave it and find out.
Yeah. Yeah, the hair was iconic. Like, it was the most identifiable part of him. And then for wrestling fans, like, Vince's hair was kind of the same way, where I think we always wondered if it was a rug.
And both seem sacrosanct, so the idea that somebody definitely would get their head shaved is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Even though I think not one of us truly believed that Trump was going to shave his.
Yeah, I think we always knew Vince was going to get his head shaved, but Vince getting his ultimate comeuppance is something that, like, even Steve Austin at his peak could never shave Vince McMahon's head.
Yeah. So, like,
it is one of those ironies that, like, according to, like, Bruce Pritchard and Jim Cornette and other people who worked at WWE, like, they could never get, like, Vince never got hair versus hair matches. He was never into the idea. And then, like, he finally did one, and it drew their biggest buy rate of all time.
And it's like, go fucking figure, Vince. People care about it. But it's an interesting stipulation. It's got a big time celebrity in it. It has a stipulation that people want to see what happens. It's got two really interesting looking guys to put on the poster. And it's got Austin. It's got, like, those shades of Austin McMahon that you remember from back when you used to watch. Like, it's the perfect storm, honestly. Which is good, because none of the other matches on this show probably drew a dime.
Yeah, I mean, so this is one where the real main event was the hair match. It doesn't go on last. What goes on last is the WWE title match where John Cena defends against Shawn Michaels. Cena dropped the title to Van Dam the previous summer. Then Van Dam lost it to Edge. Cena eventually got it back from Edge, and Cena's been the champion since September. He's pretty firmly set as the top guy in the company at this point, so it's really just having him tick another legend off his list here. He took out Triple H the previous year. Now he's going to get to take out Shawn Michaels. I mean, what do you think of that? I think at the time I was really itching for Cena versus Taker, and I was, like, obsessed with that match for years and years, and then we finally got it, and it was like a 3-minute joke.
Yeah. The problem with Cena versus Taker, and the reason that they never did it, is pretty clear, which is that Cena would have to win. And you can't do that. Especially at this point, where they're still trying to build credibility on Cena. The most important thing that match has to accomplish is to prove that John Cena is a good wrestler who can have good matches. Maybe that he could have a great match, because he's come so far in terms of his in-ring skill over the last 2 years that I genuinely think that the whole point of this match is to just be like, if he can have a great match at this, he's our guy. Like, that's the last thing we needed him to be able to do. Boom, knocked it off. Let's go.
So the build was, they did the thing where they had them win the tag titles together, and they're still the tag champions on this show, actually, if I'm remembering this right.
Yes, they are.
The build-up is that Shawn always turns on his partners, and he told Cena, like, I'll have your back until WrestleMania, and then he knocked him out with Sweet Chin music on the Raw before WrestleMania, because it's Shawn Michaels, and you'll never see it coming.
In fact, like, every week they were like, hey, why haven't you super kicked John Cena yet? Why haven't you done it yet? Why haven't you done it yet? And Shawn was like, guys, I'm never going to let you know if I'm going to do it. And then he fucking did it.
So, yeah, I mean, not a red-hot build or anything, but, it's not a bad... For a WrestleMania main event, it's fine. They certainly could have done worse.
I mean, the interesting thing about this is that this is the only WrestleMania, and really the only show that I can even think of, where the two main events are both face versus face matches.
Yeah, that is an interesting wrinkle. But when you think about it, they just didn't have a lot of heels. They have Orton and they have Edge, and Edge has a broken jaw, so Edge is limited in what he can do.
Yeah, so literally...
That's about it for their roster. Like, they have King Booker and not much else.
So they take their top 4 faces and they do this. And the build coming into this is basically just tag matches. It's like Cena and Michaels versus Undertaker and Batista.
Yeah.
And then everybody just betrays each other, and then there we go.
Yeah. So the feud on SmackDown, Batista will defend the World Heavyweight Championship against The Undertaker. I think we saw that one coming months in advance because there was just nothing else on SmackDown at this point.
There's nothing on SmackDown at this point.
Taker won the Royal Rumble in January, last eliminating Michaels. That was an epic, 7-8 minute battle that gave us a nice tease of what was to come at future WrestleManias.
Yeah, I wonder if it was Undertaker, Michaels, or Vince who saw that and was like, "Yeah, that's we're doing that."
Yeah, and it still takes a couple of years to get there, but this is, I think, the time people will start itching for they got to do Taker and Michaels at WrestleMania, and when they finally did it, it absolutely lived up to the hype.
It's one of those things where, if you look back at their history, it's possible that the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had the best chemistry of any two wrestlers who ever lived.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they barely wrestled each other over the course of their careers.
Yeah, they literally had 4 matches.
Yeah.
And one of them Michaels broke his back in. So, I mean.
Yeah. Taker and Batista also teamed up for most of their feud. They kind of built the tension kind of slowly. They would passive aggressively throw people into each other instead of fighting each other directly. I don't think anybody gave Batista a ton of chance to win here. He was pushing 40 and he had an injury history. I don't really know that this wouldn't have been the right time to end the streak, and I don't think Batista winning it would have done all that much for him.
We have to put this into proper context because this match changes the public perception of Batista so strongly that I think it's hard for people to separate it from the previous 2 years have been trash for Batista. Comes to SmackDown, basically gets injured right away. Basically, all he does is come back, get the title back. Whoops, I'm injured, I'm gone. Come back, get the title back. Whoops, I'm injured, I'm gone.
And then have terrible matches.
And they were all universally just bore fests against JBL. The worst shit. And it literally seemed like the only match, if you remember back, the only good match he'd ever had in his career to this point was against Triple H. So it seemed very likely that it was just all Triple H's doing that happened at all, and Batista was a lost cause. Coming into this match, everyone thinks that. In fact, they do a survey where they go on WWE.com and they're like, who do you think's going to win this match? 81% say The Undertaker.
Yeah. Other things that were going on. They've brought back ECW, which I think we've covered pretty extensively on previous podcasts. Kurt Angle's left the company. We've covered that one. Jeff Hardy's back. He's been gone since 2003, so nice to see Jeff back. He'll be on this show in the Money in the Bank match. No Way Out in February was the last solo brand pay-per-view. After this, they go back to having all the rosters combined for each pay-per-view. I think that was definitely the right call. The kind of solo brand pay-per-views had gotten really thin by this point, especially the SmackDown ones.
Yeah, as we go through this WrestleMania and you see how thin WrestleMania is, just imagine how bad the standalone pay-per-views were.
We don't know it yet, but Hulk Hogan has wrestled his last WWE match. It was against Randy Orton back at SummerSlam. I remember thinking they were going to do him and Big Show here because it's back in Detroit and it's the 20th anniversary of WrestleMania 3, but Hogan had yet another falling out with Vince over his SummerSlam payoff and was not interested in working here.
It's okay. They're going to do another allusion to Andre versus Hogan. It's just going to be in a match you'd never expect it from. We'll get to later.
Yeah. I do think Hogan and Big Show would have been interesting for the Billionaire match.
Oh, that is interesting, actually.
It wouldn't have accomplished, you wouldn't have made a new star with it, but if you're thinking about what's your USA Today, front page, Hogan and Big Show is a more sort of marketable match than Bobby Lashley and Umaga, who nobody's ever heard of.
Now that you say it out loud, that's definitely probably the better option.
Stroking that Fu Manchu, brother, really make some dollar bills with that one.
Yeah, I don't mind dropping the leg on the big guy on the USA Today, brother.
I think I can get him up for that. Do you remember this? Hogan actually wrestled Big Show on a Memphis wrestling show around this time.
I do remember hearing about that. Yeah, as a favorite of Lawler.
Because it was going to be him against Lawler, and then it was USA insisted that he couldn't do the match because Hogan had his show on VH1. I think it was just Vince being a dick is sort of what's the answer to that.
That is the funniest thing.
Hogan and Lawler in Memphis, even in 2007, sounds fascinating to me. Was Hogan gonna put Lawler over?
No, that's a DQ if ever I've heard one in my life.
I don't think Lawler's putting Hogan over in Memphis though.
It's the same as didn't he wrestle oh god, yeah, it was Jacques Rougeau and Montreal put him over.
Yeah. I think you got to check with a couple zeros for that one.
I wish that we had gotten to a point where Hogan, and if he had never come into WWE, we probably would have been, where he's just like, well, let me just go around the world to every territory and get $100,000 to do a job to their biggest star.
Yeah. Oh, Inoki wants to do one more match? Okay, brother, that's going to be a lot of yen.
Oh, Nakamura? This Nakamura kid's going to beat me? Whatever, bro. Keep the sushi coming.
This was the first WrestleMania back in Detroit since WrestleMania 3. I love that they came back for the anniversary. To me, WrestleMania 3 is so iconic that WrestleMania 33 should have been in Detroit. WrestleMania 43 should be in Detroit. Just forever on that anniversary, they should go back to Detroit. It should be a pilgrimage.
The only problem with that is that, well, and I'm sorry to say this, Steve, it's Detroit.
Yeah, that is a bit of an issue. Yeah, by the time they hit WrestleMania 33, they were not doing cities like Detroit didn't get to host WrestleMania anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit's the biggest
that is now.
Detroit is the biggest city that's closest to either one of us. So trust me, I would be very excited for that. And in fact, I reminded my wife while we were watching this, is I told her as we were going into the show, I had the opportunity to go to this show, and I was like, no, I'll just go next time it's in Detroit.
I know. This is a real regret in my life that I didn't make it to this show.
Because I've never been to a WrestleMania, and that there hasn't been a WrestleMania within 2,000 miles of me ever since.
They don't do them in the Midwest anymore.
Nope.
The city that's right for it is Chicago, and they can't do an outdoor show in Chicago in April. It's a real wild card with the weather.
Do it in Soldier Field with the wind whipping off the lake. Come on.
20 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
So the Lions had built a stadium downtown, Ford Field, in the early 2000s, so that's the host of the show rather than the Silverdome. Going into the Hall of Fame this time were Dusty Rhodes, inducted by his sons Cody and Dustin. Mr. Perfect, inducted by Wade Boggs. Jerry Lawler, inducted by William Shatner. Nick Bockwinkel by Bobby Heenan. Mr. Fuji by Don Morocco. The original Sheik, a Detroit legend if there ever was one, by Rob Van Dam and Sabu, who I believe is his nephew. I don't know if that's a kayfabe thing or not.
No, it's real.
And Jim Ross, inducted by Steve Austin. Also the Wild Samoans, inducted by Samu and Rosie.
It's definitely a good batch. Seeing Dusty really kind of tear-jerked me a little bit.
Here's what they missed out on. Again, because it was Detroit, this was the time to do Macho Man and Steamboat.
Oh, you're right.
Steamboat's on the show here. He shows up in one of the backstage segments.
Yeah, actually he does, in a really awkward way that we'll get to.
I wonder if they didn't do it just because they didn't want to deal with the why didn't you put Macho Man in thing.
I would have literally just re-inducted Andre. Because nobody fucking knows about the induction that happened in 1996.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have a Hall of Fame back then.
Just re-induct him. And just be like, boom, have Hogan do it.
To get into the show, it's Sunday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2007. We're at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. The attendance is announced at 80,103, which is a truly laughable number. Ford Field holds like 65,000 people. Super Bowl 40 had been in Detroit the previous year, and the attendance there was announced at 68,000. So remarkable they managed to get 12,000 more people than that, despite having a giant screen and set that took up probably blocked 10,000 seats.
Oh, you just got to remember that they set up seats in the parking lot, man, and then they watch it on like a TV.
That counts.
Still counts.
I don't know the real attendance number, but it was not 80,000. The gate was a staggering 5.38 million, which shatters the previous record from, I think it would be WrestleMania 18 in Toronto.
You know, it's really funny. Nobody really thinks of it this way, but the two WrestleManias they do in Detroit are arguably two of the biggest successes that they ever have.
Yeah, I mean, the only bigger pay-per-view they ever did than this was Rock and Cena in Miami, which is like a whole nother... Barely outdrew this, despite having international buys and The Rock being a legitimate mainstream celebrity and movie star at that point.
And, like, if we say that they drew 70,000 people here, which is probably fair, that's 70,000 fucking people, man. Why do you need to do it in Tampa Bay if you can draw 70,000 in Detroit? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and this is, by this point, it had become more of an international thing, but not as much of an international flavor as you'd have in later years.
Yeah, this thing is just a wonder. It's a one-time aberration. They never go back to it. They never try to draw in this way again. They never do another hair versus hair match on this scale. Like, literally, this is just one time where Vince is like, we did a bunch of shit and it super duper worked. Let's never do any of it again.
So yeah, the show does 1.2 million buys, which
what the fuck?
Crushes the previous record is barely over 1 million. Like WrestleMania 21 and WrestleMania 17 both did about 1 million. This is 1.2 million, and this is like still before they have much of any international business.
This is absolutely out of control. And like
it's a ludicrous number.
Like, there are, like, another 10 WrestleManias before we get into, like, the full WB Network era. Not quite 10. I don't know officially when that starts, actually.
30, so it's like another 7 after this.
Other than Rock and Cena, like, it's
never outdraw this, and they don't even come particularly close.
And that's with international buys, which skyrocket.
Which become, a huge percentage of their business, Like, this is an untouchable domestic record. Like, I mean, obviously they've kind of stopped selling pay-per-views now, but back when they never came close to this number of domestic buys.
It's absolutely out of control. It's like when, like, Titanic was still in, like, the top 10 movies of all time, even though other movies are making $1 billion overseas. Like, it's one of those kind of special
unadjusted
events.
For inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the dark match, Carlito and Ric Flair defeated Chavo Guerrero and Gregory Helms in a lumberjack match. I actually want to shout that storyline out because I thought that the Carlito Flair thing was really good.
Yeah, that was the storyline where Ric Flair, like, just out of nowhere started chastising Carlito for being a lazy piece of shit, was wasting his talents.
To set it up, we see Carlito backstage with Tori Wilson or somebody. I mean, he had like an on-screen girlfriend at the time. And they're going to leave like the show. They're leaving Raw early, and like Flair comes up to him. He's like, "Wait, where are you going? You're not going to watch the main event?" And Carlito's like, "Well, I'm not in the main event, so what's the big deal?" And Flair's like, "Wait, didn't you lose your match tonight?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And he's like, then Flair just flips out on him. He's like, "You ever think there's a reason guys like you aren't in the main event?" And he goes on this rant, and he's like, you think you can just walk around, leave the show early, have a woman like her with you, and you don't give a damn about this business? And he's like, "I've got Vince McMahon telling me that I need to pick it up or I can't work here anymore. I'm looking in the mirror, asking myself who I am, and you're going to leave the show before the show's over?" Yeah, it's a out of nowhere phenomenal segment. It's like something I've never forgotten.
And I think at least part of it was just Vince is like, "Hey Rick, go cut a promo on Carlito and fire him up. See if See if you could stir something out of the kid, because that was always the joke on him.
Yeah, Carlito didn't really care. He was just coasting on his talent.
So they were like, so I think I heard once that like going to get this promo cut on him. He just knew that they were going to like start a storyline or something. So Rick just goes on this like 10-minute amazing, brutal, scathing promo while Carlito's just sitting there taking it.
Yeah. But yeah, a very memorable segment, and then they form a team, and it probably they should have teamed up for long. Carlito turns on Flair like right after WrestleMania. That was way too soon. Like they should have teamed for months and like probably won the tag titles, and then Carlito should have turned on him.
And like less teaming and more like Flair managing him, and like Carlito getting some success, and like making a big deal about the fact that Flair was right and it was a good idea, and like Carlito shows a mean streak, and yeah, they don't do that, and Carlito just sinks back to where he was until he quits. Like that's all there is to it.
The opening video starts by showing all the WrestleMania logos, which was a really cool touch, and then highlights from all the WrestleManias. Then they do something really cool where they show the opening of WrestleMania 3, and they kind of like wipe from the Silverdome to Ford Field in the present day, and they play the audio of Vince's introduction of Aretha Franklin from WrestleMania 3, and they've got Aretha back to do America the Beautiful again.
This was the coolest shit ever, and it's
fantastic.
They had to do it because Vince is such an evil, despicable asshole at this point.
Yeah, that's the shame is that Vince, if they, the year before, Vince wasn't really on hadn't been on TV much, so they could have had him like do the start to the show. But yeah, like here, actually no, not the year before. I'm thinking of WrestleMania 20. But like, yeah, at this point, Vince, because he was involved in this Trump match, couldn't have done an introduction for the show. But yeah, that would have been a nice moment if he could have.
But instead, they just do the wipe from like, and now Aretha Franklin, and then actual Aretha starts playing. It's like, oh my god, like whoever came up with that definitely earned their paycheck.
And then she just rocks it again, like every bit as good as 20 years earlier.
Until the day she died, no human being on the planet had a voice like hers.
Aretha Franklin, Queen of Detroit.
God damn.
And then they do a package where all the top guys talk about how they dreamed of wrestling at WrestleMania as kids. So the theme is all grown up. I did think the shots of like, they had like kid versions of the wrestlers, if that makes any sense as I explain it. Like a kid dressed as John Cena. I thought that was kind of weird.
Let's just be clear. Having the tagline be all grown up is sketchy as fuck. I guess that was another reason they couldn't have Macho Man on the show. Yeah, see, that's
all grown up.
Oh my god! Stop perpetuating that rumor. But like, it's the kind of thing only your sketchy uncle would ever say. Like, that's not a thing. And I get that what they were trying to say is it's been 20 years since the original, and everybody grew up with the original, and now here they are actually on the show. I get the idea. It's not communicated well.
Then Ladies and Gentlemen by Saliva plays as the pyro goes off, and it is by far the biggest WrestleMania pyro ever.
Yeah. First of all, Ladies and Gentlemen by Saliva is a bad song. It's bad.
It's perfect for wrestling.
Literally every single time he goes like, "Oh, do you want it?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, this is a WrestleMania song. I think I want it. Yeah. Do you need it? You know what? Now that I think about it, I kind of need it."
Jim Ross welcomes us to the show. I love how fired up JR always is for WrestleMania.
It's like he only musters this level of energy once a year.
And it does feel real. Like, JR just loves WrestleMania.
It means something. It was where he started. Like, it's a big deal.
They kick it, through the different announced crews. They go to Michael Cole and JBL, who are SmackDown's team. Thought they were the best team of the night. JBL, easy to forget because he became so bad in later years, was really good when he first started.
Oh my god, when he was dialed in and he was actually like putting people over and like going out of his way to be like, Chris Benoit's the toughest son of a bitch who ever walked the face of this earth. He's the best. You can't possibly beat him, but somehow Montel Vatavius Porter's doing it. Like, he was incredible. Just absolutely what you want.
It was
as
a breath of fresh air to have a like heel color guy who actually put people over. Like just something we hadn't had in a while.
And he was so enthusiastic, which was such a breath of fresh air after Taz, who had just sort of that detached thing all the time. And it's just, and the worst crew of the night was, unfortunately, definitely Joey and Taz.
Sad, sad crew of Joey and Taz. I will never wrap my head around the fact that they make the announcers sit out there all night, even when they're not calling matches.
And like they did like the Money in the Bank match, and it would literally just be the Raw crew and the SmackDown crew throwing back and forth, and then like every 5 minutes Joey would jump in and be like, "What a move!"
Yeah, and then they'd be like, "Shut up, Joey."
It's not as bad as at like Survivor Series, where like Lawler would just start cutting promos on Joey out of nowhere for no reason.
Opening match is a Money in the Bank ladder match. Let's go through the participants. Jeff Hardy is out first. He is making his first WrestleMania appearance since 2002. Wow. Long absence for Jeff. Left the company in 2003. Spent a couple years for TNA. Returned that fall, leading to Edge's classic reaction. Jeff Hardy, didn't you die like 5 years ago?
Wow. This is his redemption tour. He comes back and they just throw him at the bottom of the mid card, and he literally has to work his way all the way back up.
The most over guy in the company.
Well, that's what happens. Is he just starts quietly stealing the show on every single Raw that he wrestles on and every pay-per-view that he wrestles on, and eventually he gets to the point where like he has this massive fan support, and then he blows it by trying to smuggle drugs across state lines.
You know, King Booker is out second. This would be his last WrestleMania appearance until 2012, as he will depart the company later in the year. I believe this is the very first ladder match of his career.
It is. They make a point of saying that on commentaries. Yes, this is the very first one, which makes sense. It's not like WCW did a lot of ladder matches.
Finlay is out next. I always love him being in ladder matches. Same thing with Regal. Like, it's just such a fish out of water thing. Just doesn't make sense seeing them in there with ladders.
There's something that's happened since the last time we saw Finlay, and I believe it's the Vince McMahon's heir thing. Has that already happened?
No, that happens the year after this.
Oh, okay.
It happens late this year, and then it like pays off at the next WrestleMania.
But like he has Hornswoggle.
He has Hornswoggle now, yeah.
Oh boy.
CM Punk is out next.
What?
His first WrestleMania match.
It's so funny. He's such a baby here. Like he doesn't even look like himself.
Baby Punk. Yeah.
He's out here to do nothing. He gets like no spots in the match. He's just the ECW representative.
Still an honor that he was included though.
Yeah,
I mean, ECW on this card.
He's gonna win the next two of these. So I mean,
the stunner is that he goes from a year ago he's one of the extras in Cena's entrance to he's in this match and he's an afterthought, and the year after this he wins Money in the Bank,
and then he wins the shit again.
Mr. Kennedy is out next, making his WrestleMania debut.
I don't think we've ever spoken about him except in passing.
No, I'm trying to think if we've ever done a show he was on.
Yeah. If you don't remember, there was a moment where Mr. Kennedy was thought to be the future of WWE.
It's right here.
Yeah. Like, he's going to win this match, spoiler. But he was supposed to be Vince McMahon's son. He was supposed to be like the new member of the McMahon family. He was supposed to cash in Money in the Bank at WrestleMania and win the title in the main event of WrestleMania. His whole future was set. He would do this thing where he would like hold his hand up at the top and he would do his own ring announcing like an old school boxing announcer.
Yeah.
It was sick. Like it was really good.
Gimmick.
They had him beat like The Undertaker, beat JBL, and he beat everybody.
Yeah. He gets a nice pop here. He gets to do the introduction. Matt Hardy is out next. I have nothing to say about him.
He's deep into his I'm wearing a button-down shirt because I'm doing the job, Matt Hardy face.
Randy Orton is out next. I was expecting a singles match between him and Edge here, but there wasn't really room for it, and Edge had broken his jaw a couple weeks before WrestleMania, and so probably wasn't up to work in a singles match. And then Edge is the last one out. Again, been dealing with a broken jaw, not really wrestling on the way into this. Finlay gets the action started with a cross body off the top rope to the floor. Edge climbs the ladder and nearly gets the win, but Matt cuts him off. Booker goes to pull a ladder out from under the ring, but it turns out to be a step ladder. Punk gets hit with the ladder and comes up bleeding. I would have to think that was hard way because there's no reason for him to blade in this match.
Is that like the most irresponsible, just like chuck a ladder into some dude's face?
Yeah, doesn't seem like a terribly safe spot. Booker hits a series of spine busters, and then he breaks out the spin-a-rooney. Edge suplexes Matt on a ladder. Jeff hits the Swanton Bomb on Kennedy. Matt and Jeff then work together to clear out the ring. They both climb the ladder but end up fighting each other. Finlay pushes the ladder over. Edge hits spears on everyone. He misses a spear on Punk, who grabs the ladder and hits everyone with it. But then Edge hits Punk with a spear. Edge sets up a massive ladder and climbs it, but gets thrown off by Orton. Edge took a lot of bumps in this match for a guy with a broken jaw.
When you say that he had a broken jaw, gosh, you wouldn't know it, because he's just taking constant bumps, throwing his face into people over and over again. And then the way he goes out of this match is an insane thing for an injured person to do.
Yes, Matt lays Edge on a ladder that's like propped between the ring and the railing, so he's laying on it like it's a table. Jeff then climbs the enormous, like 10-plus foot high ladder and does a massive leg drop off of it that breaks the wedged ladder. And I think that was the first time I remember a ladder being broken in WWE.
I'd never seen it before, no. And, like, it seems relatively safe the way that they did it. Like, it goes about as well as it's possible that it could.
Yeah, but it's a wooden ladder. It's been sawed, like, yeah.
But if, like, Jeff goes high and lands on Edge's face instead of his stomach, we have a problem.
Edge and Jeff are both helped to the back and will not return. Orton hits RKOs. He hits Punk with an RKO off the ladder. Then Booker hits Orton with a bookend off the ladder. Charmel gets in the ring and pulls Matt off the ladder. Matt threatens to hit her with the twist of fate and, like, holds her hostage to prevent Booker from climbing the briefcase.
I like the hostage angle, honestly. Like, it's reprehensible, but it's a spot I hadn't seen in a ladder match before.
Matt climbs. He takes a sick bump where he flat backs off the ladder. That was pretty nasty looking.
Jesus, why? Why did
this
you need
match
to do that?
Is brutal.
Like, everybody's fucked up at the end of this match.
Finlay gets in the ring. He hits Matt with the Celtic Cross on a ladder. He's also cut either on the top of his head or above his eye or both.
It's both, because they show a close-up of him at the end, and he's bleeding from, like, everywhere.
Oh my God. Hornswoggle gets in the ring and climbs the ladder. Kennedy shows up and hits him with a Lambo leap off the ladder, which is an insane move for tiny little Hornswoggle to take.
This might be the most unsafe ladder match I've ever seen. And
it's
like everything goes pretty well, but like,
yeah, I don't think anybody got hurt here. Remarkably.
Literally, Punk gets like a tiny ladder thrown directly into his forehead. He's fine. Jeff Hardy jumps off like 15 feet through the air and collapses a ladder with Edge on it. Nah, we're good. Like, it's... Hornswoggle shouldn't be taking serious bumps under any circumstances. And this is one of the like, if you fuck up this move, first of all, you shouldn't be doing this move off the top of a ladder anyway, because if you land this wrong, you're landing on the top of your head first. You're going to break your neck. Like, I've always thought this was a kind of dangerous move to do in general. It's just, like, brutal.
Finley climbs. Punk hits the ladder with a missile drop kick to knock him down. Punk climbs. Kennedy cuts him off. Punk knocks Kennedy off. It looks like he's going to win, but Kennedy blasts him in the face with a ladder, and then Kennedy retrieves the briefcase to win the match. As we said, that may have been the most brutal Money in the Bank match.
Like, it's not, aside from the Jeff Hardy spot, it's not particularly memorable. So, like it's like the most injuries per good spot in the history of ladder matches.
Yeah. Then we get highlights of the premiere of The Condemned, starring Steve Austin, which took place at the Fox Theater on the Friday before this. I imagine you saw The Condemned in the theater.
Multiple times.
How was it?
It's the best WWE film. It's a blatant ripoff of Battle Royale.
Oh, Battle Royale is a similar concept.
But it's got Steve Austin in it, so it's pretty good.
Todd Grisham interviews Mr. Kennedy, and then they do an all-grown-up promo featuring Batista. Then it's time for the Great Khali versus Kane in the match made in hell.
Now,
Khali debuted the SmackDown after WrestleMania the year before this and got a monster push that included pinning The Undertaker with his foot.
Which is about as big a push as it's possible to get.
Hard to get bigger than that.
For reference, this is a guy... I get why you need to push him, right? There are no physical specimens like this left in wrestling.
Yeah.
And he's at least rudimentarily trained, so, like, you gotta try it. Like, Khali, for all the people made fun of his skills, is about 8 billion times better in the ring than, like, the Giant Gonzalez is.
Yeah,
like,
he can actually have a passable match.
Yeah, Khali is slow and ponderous and can't take a lot of bumps, but he's trained as a wrestler. Despite the fact that he did once kind of sort of kill a guy.
Kill somebody, true.
It was an accident.
Well, I would hope. There's not a lot of highlights to this. Kane pulls a meat hook from under the ring, which I believe is a reference to
See No
Evil.
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay, here's the only thing you need to know about this match, okay? Kane comes down to the ring. He's doing his, like, See No Evil serial killer cosplay, okay? Despite that, in the middle of this match, apropos of motherfucking nothing, they decide to recreate the Hulk Hogan body slam of Andre the Giant with Kane and Khali. The wrestling world is so unbelievably weird that it made almost a little bit of sense for the serial killer cosplayer to pretend to be the patriotic American slaying the Giant. And the fans popped huge.
They did pop big for that.
It's just so fucking weird to me that they were like, well, somebody's got to do it. Fuck it. Let Kane do it.
Khali kicks out of the slam. He recovers and hits the tree slam on Kane to get the win. He pins him with his foot. I don't know. I mean, like, no, it was not a good match, but it achieved its purpose of putting Khali over as a monster. It was a pretty quick 5 minutes.
I mean, they're about to, like, give Khali to Cena.
Yeah.
So, like, they need to heat him up. This heats him up just fine.
Crime Time is backstage comforting Eugene, who got his head shaved by Mr. McMahon on Raw. The Extreme Exposés show up and dance. Then Moolah and Mae Young show up dressed in the same outfit. Then Slick, who did he show up to officiate the wedding? Which wedding did he officiate? Did he do Kane?
It was
and
Teddy's and Crystal's.
Okay. I don't remember if that's happened yet. But anyway, Slick shows up, which it's cool to see him. Then Dusty Rhodes, Jimmy Hart, Gene Okerlund, IRS, Howard Finkel, Gerald Briscoe, Pat Patterson, and Ricky Steamboat show up to have a dance party.
All throughout this period, they would just randomly on TV, like, it's what you call a dead end segment. So, like, in TV and film, it's when you do something that the entire point is that it's going to go nowhere because you're intending to smash out of it with something. There's some kind of surprise. So if you've ever watched a movie or television show where it just seems like the most boring, monotonous thing is happening, and then all of a sudden, like, a car drives through the wall.
The window.
Yeah, that's this. When they show, like, just an office worker at his desk doing his work, and then suddenly the hero swings in through the window or whatever. That's this. It's a dead-end segment. And they would do it with the sole intention of getting to Ron Simmons walking on screen and saying the word damn.
Yeah.
It is the most over thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And part of it is, from the moment this segment starts, it has no point. It has no direction or purpose. You know the damn is coming. And, like, all it is just you waiting 5 minutes for the damn to come. And then when it comes, you're like, yay!
He said damn.
Yeah. He said damn. He said it.
Really cool to see Ricky Steamboat. He had not been seen on TV in a wrestling show since, like, 1994.
Interesting to see him break the fourth wall, which I don't think anybody really did at this point. Like, He walks onto this camera, everyone stops, he looks directly into the camera, winks, and then starts dancing.
They show some celebrities in the crowd. Pudge Rodriguez and other members of the American League champion Detroit Tigers.
Hey, congratulations, Steve, on your American League champion Detroit Tigers.
Almost won the World Series.
Almost.
Next up for the U.S. title, we've got Chris Benoit defending against MVP. As we know, this will be the final WrestleMania appearance for Chris Benoit. He will, of course, kill himself after murdering his wife and son later this year. Awesome entrance for MVP as he has a team of cheerleaders with him. That was so good.
MVP is fucking money here.
So, love his entrance, love his music, love his red, white, and blue gear, and the pom-poms. Like, it's perfect.
And then he gets in the ring and proceeds to out-wrestle Chris Benoit.
There's the fucking house down here. This is a great match.
It is. And like Chris Benoit was literally MVP's hero. Like, he'd always want to wrestle him. Benoit kind of took him under his wing. Benoit took a lot of proteges during his time as a wrestler, and MVP was his last one, which we don't really give a lot of credence to because we try not to think about this time, but it's a big deal.
They're hustling on the mat, and MVP actually holds his own. The story of the match is, like, MVP has scouted, like, every single one of Benoit's signature moves. Like, Benoit tries the sharpshooter, MVP gets out. He tries the crossface, MVP blocks it. He blocks the crossface again. Benoit goes for a superplex, MVP blocks it. Benoit manages to hit the rolling Germans, but MVP crotches him when he goes up top for the diving headbutt.
It's just every turn, MVP's one step ahead. Like, he's like the future Chris Benoit. It's like, here he is.
MVP hits a superplex, but Benoit rolls through it into a cradle for 2. MVP works on Benoit's arm to stop him from being able to apply the crossface. Benoit goes for the crossface again, but MVP blocks it again. MVP hits the bowling elbow for 2. He goes for the drive-by kick, but Benoit ducks it. Benoit hits the rolling Germans, but MVP blocks the third one. Benoit reverses and proceeds to hit 3 more German suplexes. Then Benoit goes up top, hits the diving headbutt, and gets the pin. I do think that was a little bit of a flat finish, and it kind of... The point was that MVP was ready for all of Benoit's stuff, so I kind of wish he had just, like, done something totally different, like some move he had never used before, because he needed something like that to beat him.
I wish he had used MVP's finish and just hit him with the drive-by or, like, the overdrive or some shit like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Or just, like, a small package, like the tried and true, right?
But, yeah, overall, excellent match here. Like, way better than I think anybody was expecting.
it's so weird to look at this and think that Montel Vontavious Porter didn't wind up becoming really anything.
This should be a star-making performance for him, and instead he's just at this level, the U.S. champ for his entire WWE run.
I feel like, as we've gone along through, we're through 23 WrestleManias now, right?
Good God, we are.
I feel like they always come in twos, don't they? Like every couple years, two guys come along and it's just like, these are two big fucking stars, and then neither one of them makes it.
Yeah. Yeah. Him and Kennedy are like the funhouse version of Cena and Batista if neither of those guys had ever become stars.
Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so with Kennedy, it was just like injuries and, injuries, failed drug tests, just bad timing. With MVP, I think there's two things. There's his criminal record, which I think made them gun shy about pushing him too hard. Like, he did serious time for like armed robbery and kidnapping. He did he did years in prison for that.
Oh yeah, he didn't even start wrestling until he was 30. I mean, his whole 20s were pretty much in prison.
And then there's just the fact that he is not shy about sharing his opinions, particularly on race. And if you're in WWE and you're not going to put up with their racist bullshit, they're not going to like you very much.
This is a man with Malcolm X tattooed on his chest. Like, that's why they made him wear the whole weird Power Ranger getup.
Oh, I think that was a great thing for him. Like, I think that helped get him over, that he had such unique gear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like, it was based in the fact that they were very uncomfortable with a guy with Malcolm X on his chest wrestling for their promotion.
Yeah. Trump is in his locker room on the phone complaining that there's no food. Boogeyman shows up and Trump doesn't sell him and just asks if he can get him a sandwich. Do you think this was a reference to the Jim Cornette Santino Marella incident?
I don't know, but the whole time I was watching it, I was just imagining Jim Cornette watching at home losing his fucking mind. Like, you gotta sell the Boogeyman!
Yeah, this is the beginning of Cornette's hatred for Trump, that he didn't sell for the Boogeyman.
Not only does he not sell for the Boogeyman, I'm sure they told him what was going to happen and what he needed to do, but all he does is just kind of look at him and be like, huh, what are you?
Yeah.
And like we have to say, this Trump is quite a bit more lucid than the one that we get to enjoy on a daily basis now in 2020.
Also much more harmless because he's not the fucking president.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's that. But at least it's not like he's just like wandering around like he has no idea what's going on. Like, he actively participates in a lot of stuff on this show. It's not here though.
They do a package recapping the Hall of Fame inductions. Lillian Garcia announces the fake attendance record. Then she introduces Howard Finkel, who introduces the Hall of Fame inductees. We've got Jim Ross. We got Mr. Perfect, represented by his wife and I believe his father, Larry the Axe Hennig. Although they didn't announce him, even though he's big star in his own right.
Oh yeah.
Jerry Lawler, Nick Bockwinkel, Mr. Fuji, the Wild Samoans, the Sheik, represented by his wife, and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Then they do the video package for Undertaker versus Batista, and we've got our World Heavyweight Championship match as Batista takes on the Undertaker. Teddy Long takes over as the ring announcer for this one. Nice to get Teddy on the show. Batista comes out first. He gets a huge pop. He is over in the D.
Which is funny because the second the match starts, everyone immediately starts booing the shit out of him.
Which makes it work. Druids take the stage for Undertaker's entrance. He's got awesome backlighting so that we see his silhouette walking towards the camera. I will mention something here. Donald Trump did this entrance at the Republican National Convention in 2016. This is where he got that idea from.
Oh, you know what?
You remember this?
It genuinely probably is where he got the idea from.
Yeah, like, he's at this show. He's probably bored out of his mind watching it backstage. And he saw this, remembered it, and used it 4 years later. Well, used it 4 years ago.
He fucking did the Undertaker's entrance. That's the best. I also need to mention, I haven't brought this up yet, but like this is just personal for me. This set is one of the shittiest sets ever designed by human hands. It drives me so crazy how bad it is. Because I mentioned before...
I can't tell you, it's just a screen, really.
But that's the problem, is it's not just one screen. It's like 9 screens.
Yeah.
And there's no clear way of telling what you're supposed to be looking at any given time. So, like, The Undertaker's, for example, his entrance video is way up like 40 feet off the ground in like a tiny little screen. And then there's like lightning flashes, but they're all going in like different directions from like no fixed center point. And like it's bizarre. It's like they have completely separate images that have no connection to each other, and it's like they're just playing like 9 different channels on 9 different TVs. It makes my eyes explode. I hate it so much.
I mean, if you were going for so Detroit doesn't really. I mean, nobody could tell you what the Detroit skyline looks like. Industry is obviously the thing you think of for Detroit. I don't know if there's some way you could make the set look like a factory and have that not be weird.
Yeah, that would be
smokestacks. I don't know.
He could have done something.
Yeah.
Instead, what they choose to do is just like the precursor to the random, big, elaborate set with lots of monitors that we have now. So that just doesn't look like anything.
So let's set the stage for this match. The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble. You would sort of intuit that the winner of the Royal Rumble would get the main event slot, but they don't, because no one has any confidence that this match isn't going to suck.
Everyone on Earth thought this match was going to suck ass.
Yeah.
Like, it was not even something that needed discussing. It was not a matter of will it suck or will it be good. It was everyone ignores that match, but will Cena and Michaels be good?
Yeah.
Like, this was an afterthought. I was literally playing chess with my wife with this on in the background. I had that little interest in it until like 5 minutes into the match when I was like, wait, is this match fucking awesome right now?
Yeah. And it is, because Batista puts on the performance of his life.
Batista becomes a totally different person here. Like, he becomes heel Batista.
Yeah.
He beats The Undertaker's fucking ass in a way that we've never seen anyone do.
So, bell rings, Batista spears Taker immediately. Like, the camera barely catches it, but in, like, kind of a good way for once, because it's so unexpected that he would start this fast.
Yeah, like, the camera just, like, lazily panning back to The Undertaker and just barely sees him just get destroyed.
Taker bounces back with some rights and lefts, but Batista overpowers him, hits some shoulder tackles in the corner, a big clothesline, and then a clothesline that sends Undertaker out to the floor. Batista sends Taker into the steps, and he takes a huge bump with his legs.
Yeah, he does. Fuck.
It's a horrible bump. I can't believe that.
You're just like literally watching years come off his career there.
Yeah, there's a reason he can barely walk today.
Yeah.
Batista goes to the top rope and comes off with a diving shoulder block. How amazing is that? It's
my favorite
the only time I can ever remember him doing that.
My favorite part to like Jerry Lawler freak the fuck out as like as before he even jumps, just as he's climbing, he's like, what do you do? What are you doing up? Oh my
god. Yeah, I just love how Batista is throwing everything he's got at Taker. Like, he didn't come to WrestleMania to put on a good show and get a pat on the back. He came to WrestleMania to win this thing and break the streak.
And that's the story of the match, is that, like, Taker thought that he had worked his mind games on Batista, and instead, no mind games were worked. Batista's whooping his ass, and all of a sudden, for the first time, since like the Monster Factory in the 90s, it genuinely feels like somebody is manhandling The Undertaker.
Taker comes back with a pair of body avalanches. He hits the snake eyes, the big boot, and a big leg drop. Taker hits old school. He teases the choke slam, but Batista overpowers him. Taker comes back with a jumping lariat. He hits the apron leg drop. He goes for the dead man's dive, and for once he actually hits it perfectly. Batista gets in position and catches him.
Of all the people,
yeah.
Of all the people who ever wrestled The Undertaker, fucking Dave Batista is the only one who can capably catch the man.
Batista throws Taker into the timekeeper's table. He might be able to win with a count out here, but he breaks the count. He's not here to get a cheap win. He wants to pin The Undertaker.
He wants the fucking streak. He can taste it.
He wants that scalp. Batista clears off the announce table and hits a running power slam through it. He truly is an animal.
I think at this point, this is one of the biggest bumps we'd ever seen Taker take from somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, this is a huge bump for someone his size to take.
Back in the ring, Batista sets up for the Batista bomb, but Taker blocks it. Taker makes a comeback, but Batista shuts it down with a belly-to-belly suplex. Batista hits a 10-punch, but Taker counters with the last ride. Batista comes back with a spine buster. He shakes the ropes as Undertaker sits up. I love that spot.
God, I just love that Batista started doing Ultimate Warrior stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was as an homage or he just liked doing it, but it always made me laugh.
Choke slam from Taker. That only gets 2. Taker goes for the tombstone. Batista slips out, spears him again. Then he hits a Batista bomb with stank on it.
Well, like, Taker literally lands on the top of his shoulders and just hangs there for a minute. Like, oh. The crowd, this is important. Because in all the years that we've been covering the Undertaker streak, there have, up till now, only been one moment where the crowd genuinely thought the streak might be over. And it was that chokeslam RKO.
Yeah.
This is number 2. The crowd buys this finish.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably seen this match 10 or 15 times, and I was popping watching this match is how good it is.
It's so good. And, like, it's not complicated. There's not, like, a ton of near falls. It's not, like, a ton of spots or anything. It's just so physical, and they just work together so well. And, like, I don't know if Taker set out to be like, look, we're going to put you the fuck over. We're going to make them see that you're good. But that's exactly what happens.
Batista sets up for another Batista bomb. Taker backdrops out of it. Taker hits the tombstone and gets the 3 count. I like that Batista didn't kick out there. They're still protecting the tombstone. They're not overdoing the tombstone kickouts like they would later in the streak.
Yeah. And not only that, but, like, it creates room for more matches later on. Like, when you have the rematch, then he can kick out of the tombstone, and then you have somewhere to go. Here, he caught him with the tombstone, got lucky, won the match. But, like, after the match, like, Taker's beat. Like, this is they make it very clear. This is the closest he has come to losing the streak. And it was fucking close. It puts Batista over.
Yeah, just an awesome match. I think this has got to be the match in WrestleMania history that exceeded expectations the most.
God, I can't even think of another one close to this. It rescues Batista's career. Like, something about this match coming out of it, even, like, as he goes, and he doesn't really do that much later on in this year, but he gets to work with, like, Edge and, like, other people who are actually good. Something about this, his confidence is so apparent after this.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like he felt like he proved something here.
Taker celebrates with the belt. It's the first world title for him since 2002. It's 10 years since he won the world title at WrestleMania. His legacy grows.
I really like
an ominous feeling to this, that he's unstoppable.
I really loved JBL's commentary here, where he was just like, well, fuck, The Undertaker's got the belt. What the hell are we supposed to do?
Who could ever beat him?
Like,
but he'll only hold the title for, like, 2 months because he gets hurt.
But just the idea that, like, well, Undertaker's got that belt now? How the fuck are we supposed to do anything about that? Great. Thanks, Taker. Great, thanks.
It is a weird asterisk to his career that He was never really a long-term world champion. Longest he ever held the belt was 6 months.
But there's a reason for that. Like, it was hard to have him hold the belt because he had to definitively beat people.
Yeah.
And when you do that to contenders, you're killing your contenders.
Yeah, you run out of people to challenge fast.
Ask Triple H about that.
A really weird segment then ensues. We're in Vince's office where Stephanie brings her baby in a stroller. We then get a shot from the baby's point of view.
The baby cam.
As Vince graphically explains what he wants to do to Trump. Vince then makes a disgusted face as he says that the baby has just, quote, taken a Trump.
Oh boy. There's a really compelling case to be made that this is the most interesting Vince McMahon we've gotten since the Attitude Era. Because here, and then like
goddamn mind.
Over the next 6 months, yeah, they're starting a storyline where he's literally going insane.
Yeah.
So like the head shaving is what's going to spark the actual insanity. And then eventually that's going to lead to his death. Like, it's a long-term storyline that they're playing with. But like this, he's so quick fire that like it's like if you were in the room with him and this was real, you'd be terrified. Because just like, oh, Stephanie, good to see you. Why did you bring that baby in here? No, let me see the baby. Hey, baby, how's it going, baby? Shut up, Stephanie. Like, it's terrifying. This is a demented man.
Next up, we've got an 8-man tag match as the ECW Originals take on the New Breed. The Originals are Rob Van Dam, Sandman, Sabu, and Tommy Dreamer. The New Breed are Matt Stryker, Elijah Burke, Marcus Corvon, and Kevin Thorne. What a squad of jabronis.
Now, if you are a member of our Patreon, you may have already heard my So You Think You Can Book about December to Dismember, and I could have created a version of this where all 4 of those dudes were awesome. Not Matt Stryker, but the other 3.
Okay, so the Originals come through the crowd. That's a cool entrance. The New Breed coming out together just makes me laugh. It's a vampire, a teacher, a football player from the Serengeti, and a boxer. What do these 4 men have in common?
Absolutely fucking nothing.
Can you imagine these guys like hanging out together?
The funny thing is that Elijah Burke's actually starting to get over during this New Breed versus Originals thing.
Burke is good. I'm a big fan of Burke.
Like, he definitely had potential. If they hadn't made him wrestle CM Punk 100 times in a row, despite the fact that they couldn't have a functional match, he would have gotten a lot further.
I like Monty Brown, too.
I mean, I don't know who that is, because this is Marcus
Corvon.
Yeah. But, like, there's a lead-up to this, where on ECW TV they're, like, having a big brawl, and like Sabu's laying on a table, and like Elijah Burke does his like sprint across the ring and double knees him in the back and puts him through the table spot. That was like genuinely sick. That was like a star-making moment. But if this is just like Rob Van Dam versus Elijah Burke, this is a functional match that means something. Throwing all of these assholes in here is just pointless.
No, it's a pretty pointless match. It's like 5 minutes. Van Dam gets the win with the 5-star frog splash. They had a much better rematch in an Extreme Rules match on the ECW after this.
Absolutely. It is what it is. This isn't anything special. This is just to get them on camera. Joey Styles genuinely sounds like he wishes he was anywhere but at WrestleMania.
God, Joey Styles. I mean, a year ago, he had to like weasel his way onto WrestleMania, calling the McFoley Edge match, and he's somehow fallen even further than that in a year.
Poor bastard.
There's a promo for WrestleMania 24 in Orlando. They show a celebrity in the crowd, Detroit's own Thomas Hitman Hearns, always a friend to WWE.
I have no idea who that is.
You don't know Hitman Hearns?
I've heard the name Hitman Hearns, but I don't know Hitman
Hearns versus Hagler? It's the greatest fight I've ever seen.
Okay, look, I am a fan of boxing, but you are saying words that mean nothing to me.
The greatest fight I've ever seen. Watch it on YouTube. It's less than 10 minutes.
Okay, guys, go out there and watch that boxing match that Steve just suggested.
That's my pick of the week.
There you go.
Video package for the Battle of the Billionaires, which features interviews with John Elway, John Sally, William Shatner, John Travolta, The Rock, and some other celebrities I don't recognize.
Like Jewel was one of them. But this was a sign of like how big a deal this was. Like, these are not people who normally talk to WWE. Jewel and John Elway don't give a fuck about Vince McMahon's hair. But just Donald Trump is such a crossover mainstream celebrity at this point that like they can get anybody. Yeah. Like you get, this is the kind of interest that you're drawing. And basically what they're all saying is like, oh, Donald Trump might get his head shaved? Yeah, I'll tune in and watch that. And that's how everyone reacted.
And then it's time for the Battle of the Billionaires as Bobby Lashley takes on Umaga. The first entrance is the barber's chair.
This is I started laughing and could not stop for like 5 minutes because like the barber chairs start coming down and the music's like doop 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 doobity boop doop boop
like
boop
old time like barbershop quartet music.
It made me so happy that the barber chair got its own music.
Vince is out next, looking dapper in a navy pinstripe suit and a pink tie.
He's got this look on his face, like, I don't know if he's trying to sell the crazy angle or if he's genuinely apprehensive about the fact that he's about to do this thing that he's agreed to. I wish I knew what Vince genuinely felt about doing this. Like, I don't think that there's anything that he wouldn't do, like, for the product. But just at the back of his head, like, you wonder if Vince was really excited about shaving his own head.
It's got to be a little apprehensive. What if it doesn't grow back? It took years for it to grow back right.
And he looked weird the whole time.
His hair did not look right for many years after this.
It still doesn't really. But yeah, he's an old-ass man.
Yeah.
I recently cut off like all of my hair and like had a genuine. I'm in my 30s and I was still like, fuck, this could be it.
Umaga is out next, accompanied by Armando Alejandro Estrada. He is the Intercontinental Champion. Trump is out next to the theme from The Apprentice. Money falls from the ceiling as he walks to the ring. I assume this was real money. I think a heel uses fake money and a face uses real money.
They did show a woman in the crowd holding what appeared to be a genuine $100 bill, so I would have to assume so.
Yeah, probably dumped like, I don't know, 20, 50 grand in cash here.
Which is so funny because Donald Trump had this.
Can't it set off a fight?
I'm sure that it would.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be jumping the guardrail and getting on the ramp. Like, nope, sorry, Trump, this is my money now.
Why does Trump wear his overcoat indoors?
I assume to hide his horrible figure.
Could be.
Yeah. It's very creepy that he's with the Miss USA. I know that's just to indicate that like he's has an association with that and that's what he wants to promote here. But basically he's towing an 18-year-old girl around with him.
Oh, I've got something random to point out here. This is sort of a conspiracy theory. So the biggest donors to the Trump Foundation, which of course is a very disreputable charity that's been disbanded by the Attorney General of New York because Trump used it to launder money. The biggest donors are Vince and Linda McMahon, and they made $1 million donation here in 2007. I believe that was Trump's Wrestlemania payoff, and he laundered it through his foundation so as not to pay taxes on it.
That doesn't even seem like a conspiracy theory to me. That just seems like what happened.
I swear to God, I sent this to David Farenthold from the Washington Post, and he never responded to me.
I love
someday I'll be vindicated.
I love the idea of you being like underground wrestling black dirt insider, Steve.
Vic Venom. Meet me in the parking lot, and I'll wear my black trench coat like Vince Russo.
I fucking love that.
Lashley is out next. He's the reigning ECW champion. Neither title is on the line here.
I mean, that makes sense because those titles didn't even make sense together.
Finally, Austin makes his entrance. He's actually dressed like a referee, which is abnormal. He would normally officiate a match in like jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, he's trying today. Like he knows that he's going to be on the front page of newspapers, and he's trying.
Lashley takes the early advantage with a shoulder block off the second rope. Estrada puts Umaga's foot on the bottom rope to break it up. Lashley goes after him and hits a running power slam. I think that was the end of Estrada for a while until they made him the ECW GM. I think he got in trouble because his catchphrase got too over.
Yeah, that was the funny thing, is they kind of ran out of stuff for Umaga to do, and Estrada was like way more over than the baby faces he was facing.
Yeah, and as we know, the cardinal sin of a manager is if you get yourself over instead of the guys you're managing.
But it's just so insane, because you have a guy that fans genuinely love his catchphrases and can talk his ass off. You can't do anything with him?
He trained wrestler. At least when he did wrestle, he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was trained.
I'll throw another shout of the week. His match against Colin Delaney from ECW is really fucking good.
Yeah. It's just like, that's the kind of character that doesn't come along all the time. It's just like a ready-made guy with 50 gimmicks and all of them are great.
Turned out he was jacked as hell. He had a great body.
Super jacked.
Umaga charges Lashley. He takes a nasty bump over the top rope. Lashley goes for a spear and misses. He flies through the middle rope to the floor. Umaga hits a big Samoan drop. Vince gets up on the apron and Lashley knocks him off, but he turns around into a DDT from Umaga. Umaga goes to the top. Lashley throws him off. Both guys are down, but Austin refuses to count them out. Shane McMahon comes down the ramp. Umaga hits Austin with the Samoan spike as Shane slides into the ring. Shane goes after Lashley. Umaga holds Lashley down as Shane hits the coast-to-coast into a garbage can. Shane McMahon still got those hops.
Literally, this is something he can do so casually. Just in, like, street clothes, hasn't wrestled in months, whatever.
Can it do that? Are, like, the ropes so springboardy that anybody can do that?
I mean, a lot of people have done it, or in even more impressive versions. Like, Nate Webb on the Indies used to do this, but, like, a moonsault version. Like, it's not impossible to do. But, like, nobody does it in fucking, like, a full suit.
Yeah. And, like, not a wrestler, and Shane's, I don't know, 35 years old at this point. He's not super young anymore.
But, like, now, he's, like, 50, and he's still doing this shit.
Does it. Yeah.
We got to the point where he was doing it, like, 3 times in the same match. And it's like, dude.
Oh, why not? Yeah. Shane takes off his shirt to reveal that he's got a referee shirt on underneath, which makes me wonder, like, why didn't it count when Jimmy Hart counted the pin at WrestleMania 9?
You know what? That's a really damn good point. He had its ref coat sewed into the lining of his regular coat. It should have counted. Put a lot of effort into that.
If the statute of limitations hadn't expired, I would file an appeal on Hogan and Beefcake's behalf.
I would love it so much if they just established that anyone wearing stripes who enters a ring is a referee.
This would be a good show for, like, Wrestler's Court would be a good show for WWE Network, where, like, they litigate things like that.
That should absolutely be the Undertaker's post-wrestling career. It's just like, yeah, welcome to Judge Joe Taker.
It's Night Court, but with wrestlers.
You are charged with stirring the boogeyman and running over Austin with your car. How do you plead?
Umaga hits a huge splash off the top rope. Shane goes to count the pin, but Austin pulls the little bastard out of the ring and throws him into the steps. We then get the famous sequence where Trump tackles Vince and hits him with some terrible punches. Should note, Trump a few years ago retweeted someone's version of this GIF where Vince's head was covered by the CNN logo.
That sounds about right. Do you think they practiced that?
I think they had to.
But I just don't see him as the kind of person who has the patience to be like, yeah. Let's do some run-throughs.
The punches were not good.
I mean, he literally like gobbles up Vince so you can't see what he's punching, which is probably smart because it's not like he would have been doing particularly good-looking punches.
I'm sure Vince was just like, punch me for real, I can take it.
Yep. But I mean, it's effective as it is. The fans pop for it.
Umaga goes for the Samoan spike on Austin again. Austin hits him with the stunner. Lashley follows up with a spear and gets the pin. That match was better than it had any right to be. Like, that was just a perfect, like, zany Attitude Era sports entertainment match.
Two very weird things about that match. One, Austin takes like 5 serious back bumps in that match.
Yeah.
Like hard back bumps. So if you ever wondered if it was possible for him to have a match, this pretty much shows that, yeah, it is. Yeah. If he really wanted to.
I think he just felt like he had gone out on a good note at WrestleMania 19 and didn't want to mess with that.
I don't blame him at all for that. I just want to put to bed the idea that he can't take any bumps. He takes some stiff bumps here. And number 2, how have we gone this long into this match without me mentioning that Bobby motherfucking Lashley is in the main event of the top grossing WrestleMania of all time?
Crown him.
Suck my dick!
Shane tries to attack Austin. Austin beats him up and stuns him. Vince tries to sneak away. Lashley runs him down and carries him back. Austin stuns Vince, then straps him into the barber's chair, and Lashley and Trump begin to shave Vince's head. An original WWE song called Bald Headed Blues starts to play.
Okay, it's very clear that Vince was like, if I'm going to do this, we're going to put as much pageantry into it as possible. So he gives the barber chair its own entrance music, and he commissions a song called I Got the Bald Head Blues.
Like, was this supposed to get over? Was the crowd supposed to, like, clap and sing along with it?
And maybe that's why there were no more hair versus hair matches after this, as he came back behind the curtain furious. He was like, nobody sang along to Bald Head Blues.
They didn't get to do the na 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 song.
Jerry Lawler mentions at one point, like, I don't know what's so bad about it. Austin and Bobby Lashley are both bald. Which is a good point. Like, it's weird to be like, hey, fucking, isn't it funny that he's bald, Austin? Isn't it funny that he has to shave his head?
And then they get the shaving cream on Vince's head, and they do shave it. Like, this was, I think, the best, like, head shaving I've seen on WWE TV, because they actually got the hair off.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that, like, they have 2 guys who genuinely shave their head.
They actually know how to do it, yeah.
And, like, they do it. Like, first they buzz it, and then they shave the rest of the way. They don't nick Vince at all. They get it clean. Like, they do a good job.
Good haircut. Austin stuns Trump, and Trump can't take it at all. He falls sideways. I like that happened. That was a good cap to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Austin is not your friend.
No.
So he doesn't stun Bobby Lashley because he knows a champion when he sees one.
Does he get his ass whooped if he did?
That's right.
The match was only 13 minutes long, but like that segment as a whole was like 40.
It's obviously the most important thing that happens on the show. The whole rest of the show kind of feels like a letdown after it because like it's clearly what everyone came to see. It just must be said, Bobby Lashley and Umaga had some really special chemistry. I'm really glad they got this opportunity because it's something that they will always be able to say that they did. It's the second coolest thing they ever did together after the time Lashley jumped through the cage on Umaga.
That was awesome.
That's the fucking sickest thing ever.
Next up, we've got a Lumberjill match for the Women's Championship as Melina defends against Ashley Massaro. The Lumberjills, Brooke, who I have no memory of, Candice Michelle. Where would I know? What do I know? Where am I supposed to know her from?
Well, she was in the Extreme Expose, and she was in TNA for a while. She actually won the title in TNA.
Oh, I can't believe I missed that.
Yep.
Candice Michelle, Jillian Hall, Kelly, Crystal, Layla, Maria, Michelle McCool, Mickie James, who last year had that bomb-ass match with Trish and, like, stole the show, was super over, is a lumberjill here.
Because Melina has completely taken her spot.
Yeah. They can't do Melina versus Mickie here? That sounds like it would be good.
I think they'd already done it for like 6 months.
Yeah. Tori Wilson, Trinity, and Victoria. Also, what's Victoria still doing in this company?
There's like a grand total of like 6 months of wrestling training in and amongst these 11 women. This is our women's division here. It's not great. Ashley, for a hot minute, they decided to be like, hey, whoever gets the Playboy cover automatically gets a title shot at WrestleMania.
Royal Rumble. Yeah,
it's like the women's Royal Rumble, but with boobs.
It's top with her top instead of over the top.
Nice, I like that.
So yeah, Ashley won the Divas Search and posed for Playboy, and now she gets to wrestle for the title at WrestleMania.
I mean, unfortunately, Ashley's entire time in WWE will mostly be marked on the people that she manages to have relationships with. That's a shame. I believe she's dead now. Didn't she pass away? Yes, last year actually. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's sad.
Don't want to say anything mean about her or anything like that. It wasn't her fault that she didn't fucking know how to wrestle and was asked to wrestle a match after she was put in the death spot on WrestleMania and asked to wrestle her first career match.
Melina, during her entrance, is wearing what could best be described as a skimpy parka.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's fake fur, but there's so much of it that you might be fooled.
Melina's screaming is very, very irritating.
Yes, this game plan has been forged mostly by like Daphne before this. Other people have done it a lot better. Melina is over as a heel with Eminem, but it just never quite carries over at all to her wrestling, and it's just it's bad. It's bad. It's never good.
Melina wins with a roll-up in 3 minutes, and then all the divas fight each other.
But they treat it like it's a huge success for her.
Yeah, sure.
It's bad.
All right, video package for the main event, and then it's not really what the world has come to because they came to see the hair match, but it's John Cena defending the WWE Championship against Shawn Michaels.
And Shawn Michaels, with his whole heart and soul, wants to deliver a classic match here. Like you can tell from the moment he steps out that he's like, fuck you guys. I am going to deliver a 5-star. I'm going to carry this lump of wood to a 5-star match, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop me. Like, he is on it. Like, he is going to do it.
You would think this match would be really good because Cena got really good in 2007, and it's Shawn Michaels, and it's WrestleMania, but it just doesn't click. Doesn't happen on this night.
The ironic thing is that the next night on Raw, or whenever it is, they have an hour-long...
It's 2 or 3 weeks later, yeah. They do an hour-long match that is a 5-star classic.
It's literally the best match of Cena's career to that point. Not even close.
Oh, yeah, blows away everything else he's ever done by that point.
And it's so funny because it's clearly just out of spite that, like, Shawn just like, no, Vince, fuck you, give me an hour, I'm doing this.
Michaels comes out first to the DX music. Loved his gear here, the white pants with the red chaps. That was a great look.
It's so good. And, like, the weird, like, half coat with, like, the little, like, crosses and, like, mirrors draped down. It's like a throwback, but also has his new Christian shit in it. I loved it.
Cena makes his annual ludicrous entrance as he drives a Mustang through the streets of Detroit into Ford Field, and then crashes through a plate of glass into the arena.
Here's my favorite thing about this, is that this is really stupid.
This goes on so long.
It goes on so long, it's not that cool.
No.
But the best part is, like, they're right They get to a point where he's going to drive through the glass into the arena, right?
Yeah.
And like you can clearly see after he drives through the glass, John Cena stir in the back seat, climb into the front seat, the stunt driver climb into the back seat, and then John Cena steps outside the door and is like, "Yeah, I just drove the car." No, you didn't.
He couldn't even just drive it through the glass? Like, that needed a stunt driver?
Well, it was super dangerous the way that they drove it through the glass, though. Like, if they hadn't stopped
Yeah, 'cause
exactly
he had to
the way
stop.
they
It
did,
was
he's
going to
going
hit
into
the crowd. Yeah, this was dumb. This sucked.
So dumb.
Was this... I don't think it was worse than the Gangsters in Chicago the year before.
It's less... Yeah, it's still corny. Gosh, it's hard to... These are all bad. It's just so bad.
The one good one he had was the Cena clone army.
That was very cool, yes.
That was badass. Other than that, I don't think he's ever had a good, like, special WrestleMania entrance.
I genuinely can't think of one.
The marching band was...
It's all right.
The thing is, I couldn't even make out the song they were playing. Like, they weren't good enough for me to be able... It wasn't, I think, mic'd well enough to be able to hear them.
Right.
Cena gets just booed out of the building here.
Which, I mean, once the match starts, they don't really seem to be that invested in booing him. It's not like the year before, where, like, against Triple H, they were like, Triple H is the most beloved babyface in the world just because he's facing you.
I believe they edited out a fan jumping the railing here at the beginning of the match.
Imagine that somebody does that and ruins the WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, like, tackles Michaels and, like, blows out his knee.
That would be so fucking funny.
Then the main event would have been Cena whooping that guy's ass.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Shawn asks Cena for a handshake. Cena declines, so Shawn slaps him, then drops him with a right hand and crotch chops.
Yep.
Michaels is a step ahead for the early part of the match. He's got an answer to everything that Cena tries. Michaels throws Cena out to the floor. He hits an Asai moonsault onto Cena, onto the announce table, and it doesn't break. Shawn slams his knee on the announce table. He ends up going away with a knee injury in May, and this may have been the cause of it.
Probably. This thing is brutal.
Oh, yeah. He struggles to walk for a little while after this. I think this is the reason he proceeds to work on Cena's knee for like the next 10 minutes, but it doesn't play any real role in the match. Like, this is probably the biggest issue I have with this match is Michaels destroys Cena's knee, and then Cena doesn't sell it, and it plays no role in the match at all.
Yeah, it kind of played right into the Super Cena thing. Like, he'd been asked to sell so little in his career up to this point that he wasn't really very good at that. Like, he had gotten really good at doing what he needed to do, but when it came to long matches like this where he needed to, like, actually sell and work a body part, like, he just wasn't really comfortable with that. One thing the hour-long match does amazingly is that Michael starts working a body part, and he basically just tells Cena, like, this doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, don't try it. I'll cut it off.
Leg. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all it would have taken is Cena goes for the AA and his knee gives out. Like, that would have made this all worth it.
And that would have worked with the finish, too, where he, like, goes for the AA and he crumples, but then he turns it into the STFU. That's fine.
Yeah. Cena manages to catapult Michaels into the ring post, and Michaels comes up bleeding. Cena stages a comeback, and the knee problems are forgotten. Boo!
Yep.
Shawn slips out of the FU. He goes for sweet chin music, but he hits the referee. Cena sets up for the FU again, but Michaels counters it with a DDT. They go to the floor. Michaels pile drives Cena on the ring steps. That is a brutal move. Cena comes up bleeding from the back of his head. Did he really blade the back of his head here?
I can't tell. There's clearly something going on with it. If it's a blade job, it's a sloppy blade job. So he may have just kind of like dug in there to try to make it look. Or maybe he actually hit the stairs, but I can't imagine that Michaels let him hit anything.
No. You can see him take his time adjusting because, do not want to pile drive somebody for real on those steps.
This is not the first time Michaels has done this spot. It used to be one of his signature spots because he's the only person in the industry safe enough to do it.
Yeah. Second referee comes in, makes a close 2 count. Michaels hits a forearm, then a flying elbow. Shawn tunes up the band, but Cena catches him with a clothesline. Cena goes for the FU again, but Michaels rolls it into a sunset flip. Cena finally manages to hit the FU, but he's slow to make the cover, and Michaels kicks out. They struggle on the top rope. Michaels shoves Cena off. Michaels comes off the top with a crossbody, but Cena catches him, rolls through, gets up to his feet, throws him up on his shoulders. He goes for the FU, but Michaels lands on his feet. He goes for sweet chin music. Cena picks the ankle. He tries for the STF, but he can't get it on. That's an amazing sequence.
It really is. Like, the STFU adds so much to Cena's matches. It really does. Like, while people have mentioned many, many, many times the fact that he doesn't cinch it in like a reasoning human being would, it just, giving him that dimension adds everything. Like, it's so important.
Michaels misses an ensiguri. This time Cena gets him in the STFU. Michaels struggles and gets to the ropes. Michaels pops up, drops Cena with sweet chin music. He's slow to make the cover. Cena gets a shoulder up. Cena goes for the FU again. Michaels slips out again, but Cena catches him with the STFU in the middle of the ring, and Shawn taps. Last 5 minutes were hot. Yeah. Match was longer than it really needed to be. It was 30 minutes, which was a little bit much.
I really like that last STFU where he's like turns on his side almost, and he's almost like choking out Michaels. Yeah. Like that was pretty cool. It's a good match. It's so much better than the Triple H one that I kind of feel like this is the first time that Cena gets to this is the first Cena main event that works on any level. So that's important.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not that special. No one really cared about this match.
Any issue with Cena going over? I know I was upset about it at the time, but I was a whiny internet smart mark who hated John Cena.
Did you genuinely believe that Shawn Michaels is going to win the belt here?
No, I was just hoping for it. Here's the thing. At this point, I was just desperate for change. Right. This is 3 straight years of Cena winning at WrestleMania. It's the second year in a row he's retained the belt at WrestleMania. I had been raised on the belt changes at WrestleMania.
Right.
There have barely ever been cases of people retaining the belt before this, and now Cena's done it 2 years in a row. So I was desperate for some kind of change. I was desperate for Cena to turn heel, or Michaels to really kind of break bad and go full DX Shawn Michaels, and neither of those things happened here. So I was just kind of bored with Cena winning, which, boy, I was in for a tough next 10 years.
Yeah. Spoiler, Cena wins was a way of life, my friend. We all lived it.
Cena celebrates for a long time. Michaels walks out in a huff without shaking hands. I was hoping for this to lead to more. They did have that match on Raw a couple weeks after this, but we never get to a big rubber match between them. Just doesn't happen.
They do have that fatal 4-way match at Backlash.
That's a good match.
It's awesome. It has the best finish I've ever seen in a match. Honestly,
Cena Michaels hits Cena with sweet chin music, and he falls down onto Edge or Orton to get the pin.
Yes. That is one of my favorite finishes. It's so perfect. And then Michaels realizes too late and jumps to break it up, but nope. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, was really hoping we'd get the a rubber match between them at SummerSlam, but Michaels misses time with a knee injury and doesn't come back until the fall.
Ultimately, Cena needs to win here. There's not really, while I also very much wanted change at this point, there's not that much change to give. Nobody else is really ready yet. It's just not time.
The next guy up is supposed to be Mr. Kennedy, and that doesn't work. So, yeah, we get to WrestleMania next year, and it's still stasis on all fronts.
Yeah, what the fuck is the main event? Oh, yeah, that's the triple threat. Gross.
Roll the video package. The show was over. I don't know. How do you rate that one? I thought it was better than it had any right to be.
I didn't like it. Maybe it's just because I kept staring at the set and hating it so much. Maybe it's
Donald Trump.
Maybe it's because it was literally based entirely around a babyface Donald Trump. I don't know. Like I didn't even really get to enjoy the fact that Bobby Lashley was in arguably like the biggest wrestling match of all time up to this point. I didn't really get to enjoy that.
That's the real tragedy.
Yeah, it really is. The undercard matches were like strangely heatless and they didn't go anywhere. I don't know. Like Undertaker Batista is a triumph, but that's really all you get from this show.
Yeah, I mean, Undertaker Batista hugely overachieved. The hair match was a lot better than you would expect. The Money in the Bank match was good, and Benoit MVP was a really good undercard match. But yeah, this show was missing. You know, it's another one where if Batista and Undertaker had gone on last, even though that wasn't nearly the biggest match, this show probably would have been better.
This is also kind of during a long, hopeless period. Like, you kind of mentioned that you were looking for any kind of change. I think we all really realized that, like, we were going somewhere and we weren't going to get to where it was going to be good for a couple of years. And in between, it was just going to be like, I wasn't excited to see Kennedy and MVP coming up because it didn't matter. Cena was the guy. We all knew Cena was the guy. So we all
stuck with forever.
I think we all kind of latched onto one person that we thought might supplant Cena. So, like, to this day, there are, like, MVP stands that are, like, hardcore MVP stands. Or, like, CM Punk or Edge. Like, everybody latched onto
the Bobby Lashley guy. Just you.
Yeah, just I chose Bobby Lashley, which is ironic because I was the only one who was probably right.
Yeah, actually. Whew. So, yeah, that's a wrap for WrestleMania 23. We got one more of these this year. We're going to end on a strong note with WrestleMania 24, the swan song for Ric Flair, and just a absolutely loaded show. One of the best pay-per-views WWE has ever put on.
If Batista versus Undertaker was the match that most exceeded its hype, I think that this is the show that maybe most exceeded its hype. There was very little hype for the show actually coming into the show. And by the end of the night, I think we all had to admit that this was easily top 3 WrestleManias of all time. And probably still is.
Yeah, really every single match on the show hit its potential.
Except Kane and Chavo.
That hit its potential by only lasting 10 seconds. That was the best ever use of Chavo Guerrero.
Very good point.
Oh, but yeah. All that and more next time on the Lawcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time.